How do you know somebody comes from a low-income background? In Latin America, but I think this is the case for many other countries around the world, you ask a simple question. What school did you go to? Many of you, I'm sure, recognize this, right? That means that a school is not precisely a great equalizer. Unfortunately, rather the opposite. Now, I want you to think about this. What is the extra that you get in those high-income schools? High-quality instruction of basic skills, reading and writing, math and science? Fair enough. But what more? You get extracurricular activities that provide you with imperishable skills. Those top transversal skills that help you anywhere you go. Work, friends, neighbors, family, and life in general. And third, the other thing you get is a network of relationships that will also accompany you in your entire life. A 21st century education cannot stay at reading, writing, math, and science. Most poor people get some of that, but don't get the traditionally called soft skills and the network in school, and we all know they are critical for success in life. They predict better school results, social-emotional development, higher wages, career advancement, physical and mental health, individual and collective well-being. There is something we cannot forget. What girls and boys learn in school is the currency we are giving them to use in life, particularly when you don't have any other assets. They exchange those skills in the labor market to get a quality job, but also they use them in their communities and families. This capital, this human capital, is what will make the difference between a prosperous life and a life full of hardship. Why are those skills more critical than ever now? Because we live in a world in transformation that is very different from the world other generations grew up in. Because people need to deal with things we didn't have to worry about before. Automation, living with robots, aging, climate change, diversity, migration, and now also a pandemic, COVID-19. Because we might not realize it, but all the digital transformation we are living in is not really about technology. It's about people and talent. So now, let's look at the future. How should Education 2030 be? First, it should respond to the needs of what I call the kids of the generation COVID. Until March, if you run a Google search, you will find that those kids that are today between approximately 7 and 22 years old were called Generation Z or post-millennials. Well, they are not anymore. They have been hit by the worst crisis in the last century and found themselves trapped by the pandemic, either starting, in the middle, or finishing their studies. Let's just get some numbers. In LAC, about 150 million students 5 to 18 years old had to stay at home. Pre-COVID, only about 60% of low-income students attended secondary education. In addition to those numbers, our analysis estimates that about 1 million students will drop out due to the pandemic. Unemployment in the region has also increased by more than 12% due to COVID and is hitting the youth harder. Of the envelope calculations estimate around 10 trillion loss of lifetime earnings for future generations. Second, education should be a leveler. In 2030, social origin shouldn't define anybody's destiny, or at least the school should be the equalizer that is not today. Investment in human capital through school is the main alternative for low-income children and youth to climb up the social ladder. to have a better life than their parents. Traditionally, they have been offered segmented social services. Middle and high-income children do not study in the same centers as low-income children. They don't have the same teachers, and they don't see the same doctors when they are sick. With such unequal starting points, COVID has come to worsen an already existing inequality trap. I want you now for a moment to look at this. This is Angelica Benston, a pole vault athlete. What's interesting here is how she moves from here on the floor after her pole breaks. This is her last attempt. She asks for encouragement to the public. She gets the pole of a running mate. She tries again and she makes it. I want you all to look at this and to think of this, because this is the leap, very similar to the bounce that thousands of poor kids need to do to make it from here, like Osvaldo living in extremely vulnerable neighborhoods with violence and crime, low resources and low educated parents, to here, where we see him participating in the Education Commission of Paraguay. And third, Education 2030 should be about connections, because they need to survive in an interconnected world. We need to connect people with the right skills that are going to be useful for them as persons, as professionals, as citizens. Education has to provide students with concrete tools, those that they need to thrive in life. Do not depreciate over time. On the contrary, they increase their value over time and allow us to gain other skills. Second, connecting education with economic opportunities. That means breaking the skills mismatch that exists between what companies need and what school produces. Connecting people with employment opportunities. Education opportunities are only tangible if they translate into employment and jobs. The real test for how well a student did is not the final score she gets on test, but how useful is what she learned to get a quality job, start a successful business, or have a prosperous life. And three, connecting actors within the ecosystem to make sure that they all work together to increase the quality of education, make it more relevant to the market. Education is not anymore the responsibility of the state. It is a shared responsibility, because we all need to contribute to a system in which learning will not happen anymore from 0 to 18 or 25. It will be a lifelong journey. Now, what are these imperishable skills that we all need to navigate an uncertain world? These are the skills. And let me just briefly highlight a few of them. Today, I'm not going to talk about digital skills, as it is quite obvious that no one can survive without them. Let's start by learnability. If technology is changing at an incredibly rapid speed, the world we live in, including our jobs and occupation, we need to keep on learning. How to use a new app, a new coding language. If many of the jobs that exist today will disappear in the coming years, either we learn to do other things and we reinvent ourselves, or we will end up unemployed and replaced by a robot. Learning to learn allows people to keep getting into new things, to be aware of what you need to manage your own process and needs, and identify opportunities and overcome obstacles, because we all learn, gain knowledge and skills in very different ways. It helps you build on prior knowledge and experiences to gain new skills faster and in a more efficient way, both at home and at work. Let's now move into critical thinking. Think of the massive amounts of information we are exposed to. How do we distinguish what's relevant and what's important from what is not? How do we recognize truth from fake? How can we assess if a piece of information is grounded in solid scientific research or somebody just made it up? Critical thinking enables people to have an informed and ethical engagement with information, with digital technologies, and with media content. But hey, Young people are not only consumers of content, they also produce content. So critical thinking is also key to support students and everybody to contribute with verified, respectful, and ethical content. Creativity. Creativity is the ability, to produce work that is at the same time original and useful. At the individual level, creativity helps, for example, solving problems in your daily life or at work. But at the level of society, creativity is critical for innovation and for scientific findings. Think now for a moment of all these scientists that are, as we speak, working to find a vaccine for COVID-19. Not only creativity is critical for human development and survival, but a recent study surprisingly found that the creative skills are similar in arts and sciences. So basically, the capacity to solve a problem by a musician when she composes a symphony is very similar to the ability that applies an engineer to deal with a construction challenge. It requires being open to new ideas, employing divergent thinking, and maintaining a sense of flexibility. These attitudes, dispositions, skills, and knowledge are all transferable from one situation to another. And the last one, resilience and grit. We already said that not all of us are born at the same starting points and with the same opportunities. If we want 2030 to look different than today, we will need to foster in our youth resilience, perseverance, and passion. That's the only way we can make sure that those vulnerable kids make the leap they need to change their destiny. Let me share with you the story of Diana Trujillo. She is an aerospace engineer and part of a NASA team that just launched a rover to Mars. That in itself is quite remarkable, but that is not the only reason I want to talk about her today. She is Colombian of origin and she arrived as an immigrant at the age of 17 to the US with only $300 in her pocket. She started with English lessons and had to take on several jobs, including housekeeper, to support her own studies. She continued her studies all the way through university, started engineering, and was encouraged to apply for the NASA Academy. She became the first immigrant Hispanic woman on the program. We need today many more like Diana to reach for the stars. And we need to teach them how to develop and strengthen those skills that will take them there, even in times of crisis. So now, where are we today? When you decide to go somewhere, you first need to know where you are. That's your starting point. So where are we? Where is our education in 2020? Well, here the bad news is that unfortunately education 2020 is not that different from education in the 1900s. And where the system really falls apart is particularly in the connection between education and employment and economic opportunities. Our education systems are preparing our kids and youth for yesterday's and today's jobs. But hey, not for tomorrow's jobs. Look, for example, here in the last World Economic Forum report, when they look at the barriers to the adoption of new technologies, what comes first is the skills gap in the local labor market. And that goes for other sectors as well. Automation is opening up an incredible number of possibilities we cannot imagine yet. Every day we discover something different. Some estimates tell us that more than 50% of the occupations of the future are unknown today. We need to prepare students to deal with uncertainty, because the reality is that we don't know a lot of things. Many of the jobs that we have today, could be up to 50% or more depending on the country, are specialized and repetitive, which basically means that they could be easily done and replaced by machines. The labor market is becoming increasingly polarized, another important trend. On the one hand, we have the low-pay occupations that require a combination between manual labor and the ability to work with people. Examples: professionals taking care of children and the elderly, or people with disabilities, the bartender, the hairdresser. And in the other extreme, those high-pay occupations that require higher-order cognitive functions, critical thinking, leadership, and highly specialized technical skills. And oops, the jobs that were right in the middle before are in the process of disappearing and being taken up by machines. See, for example, here that the job roles that are in decreasing demand are precisely those like data entry clerks, administrative assistants, secretaries, accountants, etc. Now, when we look at our education system, we see that it's creating second-class robots instead of concentrating on creating first-class humans, because they teach us what computers are best at: specialized and repetitive predictive work, accumulation of information and data, and compliance with instructions. Whereas we as humans are much better at and cannot be replaced by a machine when we interconnect ideas and things that have not been linked before. When we are faced with situations that we could not predict, when we have to use and understand our emotions to solve a problem, or when there is a need for new ideas. So now, the question is, why would anybody spend 12 years or more in an education program that does not give you the tools you need to work and to have a good life? And yes, the answer is indeed, they are not. Many people are either dropping out or abandoning any learning path, or looking up for other alternatives, certifications, micro-credentials, nano-degrees, digital badges, or boot camps in different topics from programming to data analytics. And there is a growing market responding to those very specific needs of both the companies on the one hand and the young people in search of economic opportunities. This, together with those teachers that, with their individual initiatives, are trying really hard to bring to their students a new education, could be the game changers. So, is everything or everywhere the same? No, it's not. At the system level, some countries are adapting and performing well, but also we are seeing, as I was saying, a lot of individual private sector NGO initiatives that are trying to respond to this new reality in a different and sometimes very effective way. There is a revolution happening in education, but a lot of the transformation is happening outside the traditional classroom, the traditional education sector. Let me just go very quickly through some of these examples to give you a flavor of the magnitude and the strength of this emerging trend in education and training. Companies like Google, Infosys, IBM, AT&T, or Amazon are creating their own cutting-edge in-house universities and programs to prepare new people for the jobs they need and also upskill and reskill the workers they already have. Universities like Minerva, another example, offer a curriculum rich in 21st century skills, those that you can transfer from occupation to occupation, with a combination of online education, academic excellence, and lower cost for students. Holberton offers a mix between highly specialized technical skills, software engineering, and soft skills, and students don't pay until they get a job. Other very promising edtech companies are, for example, Global Alumni, which is helping top universities around the world to transform their programs and the students' learning experience. And then, in the world of actually translating skills into something companies can actually see, touch, and buy, there are a lot of new startups and organizations offering digital assessments and certification, including badges and other forms of accreditation. Here we have Degreed, Credly, NACAP, Innovate plus Educate, or Diwala. But now I actually want to spend a few moments on a governmental initiative, that is Sakuda. To effectively connect youth with economic opportunities, the Colombian government is carrying a structural reform starting by an update of its youth policy at the national level and combined with an ambitious program that will be implemented throughout the country, reaching the most vulnerable. This is quite an important moment for policy, and in the coming years, it will probably be a reference for other countries inside and outside the Latin American region. Sakuda is the name of the program. Shake it up. In collaboration with different public and private sector actors and civil society, the country has developed an innovative methodology in 3 stages to make sure that youth first connect and can create their own learning and professional journey, then develop the skills they need to follow that journey, and they finally can connect with entrepreneurs and employment opportunities to materialize their personal growth investment. To make sure it can reach everybody, it has 2 service models: a blended model in which they combine the possibilities of technology with center-based in-person learning, and a virtual model in which students can access their growth opportunities from anywhere and anytime, but with the certainty that they will always be accompanied and supported by a group of mentors and professionals through their journey. Also at the IDB, we are supporting the region with solutions for youth, like the major policy reform Colombia is implemented. And we are also offering a regional platform to help youth and individuals along their professional careers to assess, certify, and showcase their skills, and at the same time build a regional network of peers and mentors. The name of the platform is CLICK, because education needs to be about making those connections: skills, employment, and networks. We have also created a large network of innovators in the region through what we have called the 21st Century Skills Coalition. And in collaboration with HundrED and JP Morgan, we are expanding this network to identify the solutions that most effectively will help build skills for life in the region. Just as Diana Trujillo, our youth should be shooting for the stars, and we have the responsibility to give them the tools to shoot for the stars, because it is their future and the prosperity of our countries that is at stake, and nobody can afford a lost generation. Thank you.